So I was at the premiere last night. Second time I've seen the film. Amazing fun. I mean, it's such a high-octane, exciting film. Your performance is fantastic. David, you always deliver in these sort of thriller dramas. The atmosphere in the cinema was amazing, and I think everyone had a fantastic time. I'd like to start off with something you said. I think it was you in the pre-Q&A, which is about British crews being some of the best in the world.
Yeah.
Let's sort of dive into what is about a British crew, because we're a filmmaking podcast. Why we love shooting in England.
No, I feel so privileged that we have, I think we do have one of the best film crews in the industry. And the crew thing for me is that it's such a certain breed, right? And we're all very similar. Like and it's almost like, it's like punishment, it's like self-punishment, like masochistic sort of like, this sort of thing, but we all love it. But it's like, it's incredibly hard work. It filters out a lot of people, right? So what I mean in that is that a lot of people go, I want to be in film, I want to do that, right? And then they get in and they might be, one of the ADs, runners or something, or on the... And you can see that they get burnt out very quickly, right? And it really does filter out this sort of thing. So you become these people and you have to be willing to be on the road and changing. So it's this amazing kind of, you come on a set and it's this energy that is a very intimate family and you become very close, but it's collaborative, right? You got heads of department that work with the director. The last movie I was on, I mean, our second AD was like a runner on Anna Karenina, like way back. And I was just like, I see these faces and I see these people come through and they're evolving in what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful to make a movie in UK, in London, or in the studios or out in the locations that we go to. I don't think there's a bad crew I've ever worked with.
100%.
I've worked in Europe, I've worked in the States, I've worked in Australia, I've worked in different, and it's not to say that those industries and those crews aren't great, because they are, because obviously they're very well established. And I mean, some of the most amazing crews in Italy and in Prague and, and obviously in the States. In the States, it's slightly different as a union system, right? So you're part of all these different unions, which is great, but it's culturally very different to the way British film crews work. So I'm just talking in terms of like things like that it creates a different dynamic, and there's an energy that when I grew up as a kid on British film that's kind of nostalgic, and that there's a different thing that's a different sort of support and love for film that you get from a crew like that.
We had a lovely time. The film had a very good positive energy, and it was a happy shoot, despite the intensity of the thing we were representing.
So true.
Everyone was kind of in a good mood.
Yeah.
Summer in London, and it was kind of, it was pretty nice.
Amazing. Because you've shot in the UK and America. I mean, I've got upcoming films set in Scotland and America, so I'm trying to figure out how budgets are different, how the unions are mentioned are different. What's your experience with the difference in shooting UK and US
I think
films?
the British crews are more flexible, and we can ask of the crews what we need to ask. The American system is a little bit more sort of structured, and so sometimes you feel like the structure's almost designed to be slightly director-proof,
and that extra sort of flexibility to push when you're on the fringes of getting something done a bit harder, maybe.
Yeah, and it, the sort of sometimes wanting to be light on your feet and all those kind of things, which I always like to do. It's harder in that environment in the States. I've not really shot that much in Europe, so I don't know. But the British crews just you don't have to think about those things when so it definitely is a slightly easier process here.
So I like the fact that you both seem to be very good at covering anti-heroes. I mean, this film definitely like a few different anti-heroes, very sort of mixed characters. I'd love to know how your collaboration is in terms of when you start working as actors, because obviously you've done The Outlaw King before.
Yeah.
But like in terms of this one, like what's your process in terms of Aaron preparing for the character, those initial conversations with the script, and then those chats with David, and then David, maybe your kind of setting of the tone and the mood, because this is a very different film to Relay, for instance, in terms of how you set that out.
I mean, it is a process, and it started with the script, and when the script was ready and right, we sent it to Aaron. Aaron, responded, and then we started kind of digging into the details, and quite a lot of those details were conceptually cool, but procedurally incorrect, and so we evolved it with that, and Aaron had thoughts on character, and so the whole thing kind of like it went on that little bit of a journey of development, and then when we start kind of building the thing up and finding the locations, and we relied very heavily on experts in his field, the EOD guys and the police, and so our protocols were as real as possible, and once that starts happening, then the thing sort of almost takes on a life of its own.
Absolutely. I think that's like the fun in it. Like you just, when you read something like that and it just churns up sort of questions and you go, okay, so like, and I'm interested in this, like, do you think this, you start to really dig deep. And then I think that's what the fun in collaborating is. And also we have a relationship from working together before and knowing each other's sort of styles and that Dave is someone who is looking for someone to kind of dig deep on the research and then kind of, I don't know, bring something to it, and
I mean, there's one specific moment just that you did, which I really, really enjoy, which I kind of feel like kind of symbolizes maybe what you do really interesting as an actor, because this could be very one sort of tone, people taking their job very seriously, especially in the army. There's a moment when your subordinate sort of questions you and you kind of laugh, and it's a little bit of a sort of sarcastic ego laugh, and so many actors would have just played that straight, would have just like confronted, but that moment of unexpected sort of lightness I sort of feel like that's present in your films, and I think it was a great sort of performance moment. Is that the kind of, is that
interesting? Because I literally have no idea of reference what you're talking about.
So it's when they're with the bomb, and your subordinate sort of says something like, maybe we should check the residue, and you just laugh, and it's such an unexpected. That feels like it felt spontaneous to me.
Yeah, it probably was, because I can't, like you're I'm talking to me now, and I can't recollect what you're talking about anyway. Like, because I think everything is just a reaction to what I'm being given. So I'm like, it's an intuitive moment that is just and I think if it's in there, it's because David Mackenzie saw it and went, I quite like that, like a bit of the the unpredictability, spontaneous reaction, maybe the opposite to what you've seen, because. And then I'm sure I did variation takes,
definitely,
only because you say it, because like I probably didn't go and then I sarcastically laugh or what have you. I probably just played. I probably wanted to do something different for my other scene partner in there, because I do that too, to kind of keep, depending on where the camera is, it's like, let's try and get something new and fresh out of it, and also
give them something to react on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's our job at the end of the day. Like, you need to break it down. We're all here to help each other. We're not trying to I'm not trying to ever. I don't come to a room and try and go, oh God, these actors, I'm going to try and be better than that other actor. No. Like, I don't have ego like that. I have to be open, and like I want to work with that. And the same with Mackenzie, and the filmmaker like David, who is creating an environment and then just wants you to kind of explore. And there's a script and there's dialogue, and you want to stay poignant and to the tempo of that and rhythm to that. But in between that, there's these little moments that you kind of go, you want to find that just could feel odd and different, and
but different and odd. I mean, do you have any recollection of that moment? Or
absolutely. And the interesting thing about it is there's an element of bluster, but sort of behind it. Yeah, but it's an unreadable thing.
Yeah.
And also weird. Smiled a bit, but it's a kind of it's like the kind of biggest grin so far in the film, and it's coming in a very unpredictable moment. So, it's a lovely gift
in a good way. But I mean, just further from that as well, because I don't think it's a spoiler to say all of the characters have ulterior motives in some way. There's so much sort of double layers to everything.
Absolutely.
Obviously, in this kind of film, the key is to not give away anything too much. You want to have surprises. How do you sort of plot maybe a little bit together? I mean, I'm guessing there were some conversations about how you play some of the characters early on versus how they come across later, because you don't want everyone to play like obviously what they turn out to be. And there's obviously, you've got to sort of almost hoodwink the audience a little bit.
Well, also the character is in his own right, or the characters are in their own right are playing those games anyway. So they're presenting fronts, and so it's a it's a game of how much you're holding back and all of that, and sometimes you're dropping breadcrumbs, and there are definitely bits in the film where there's some things being definitely signaled, and we kind of we editorially we're sliding on a scale how much we want to give away. So those are sort of editorial choices. But I would say as a character you're playing both your internal character and your front character.
Absolutely.
Kind of
I was going to say that's the complexity, isn't it? Yeah,
and the challenge. Yeah, no, I think it is. It was very much instrumental in sort of like how much you can give and take, and then we'd play with that, and then at the end of the day, like David said, in the edit it really shifted and changed depending on things, and I think that's that's why it's a Mackenzie film.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of like going on to rehearsals or not rehearsals, it sounds like a lot of both of your approaches and why they're really good is you mentioned the word digging, but like research, getting little nuggets of sort of truth that can be the foundation, and then sort of providing that spontaneity. I mean, how did that sort of? Do you get a chance to do rehearsals on a movie like this?
I don't like to rehearse.
You don't like to?
I like we read the text or whatever. I like
always shoot the
rehearsal. Yeah, exactly.
Who knows?
Could be magic. Yeah.
Well, you find a lot out. I mean, I think. But before that, we did do a lot of deep research and boot camp in actually how to defuse a bomb, how to actually make a bomb, and do all those things. And we were working with the military in their quarry, and we're very lucky and fortunate to be able to do that. There are consultants. David obviously brings that sort of team on. That's important. That's a part of the crew, the story, everything. So he gives that to us as actors. Gugu had someone in the police department, and I had this great EOD specialist and the military guys. I think you get a script like this and go, this could be kind of crazy and wild. It's kind of like a high concept of like this kind of thing going on. But then the more we went digging, and as you put it, it was like
metaphor aside,
was that actually it's very plausible. And actually, then the element of like the stakes and the reality of it was like, oh, this is actually kind of intense and like interesting to kind of play in that world of hyper real, but also like and I think that was kind of the key. But it's like also metaphorically, like all these characters, like what's making them tick? What when are they gonna like really show them true selves? What's gonna make them expose themselves? So that was the stakes too, individually in Theo, in my character Sam, and Gugu.
And maybe just going back to the sort of British tone side of things as well, just to go a little bit more like the visual look. I mean, Relay has a lot of shadows, and it's very much sort of in the pockets of the world we don't see. This has a very different look. It'd be great to hear what your sort of initial thoughts was for that. And then Aaron, afterwards, maybe going into how you approach doing like a American movie that's very American feeling versus, the characterization on a sort of UK movie.
Well, every film, the look is sort of is dictated by the environment you're trying to create, and there is an element of realism here, but I was also trying to explore London in a sort of fresh way, and trying to sort of make it feel contemporary and interesting, and also it's probably, it takes place basically entirely during the day. So a lot of that kind of moody lighting. I mean, there's scenes underground that you can get a little bit of. We milked that for all we could. So we're relying on daylight and trying to have that consistent, and that's part of the thing. I really wanted to have a kind of deep energy to the cinematography, a sense of kind of it moving and that tension, and so there's a lot of quite dynamic camera work in there. My friend Giles Nutchins, who shot it, he's done 8 films of mine or something, and we have a great sort of shorthand, and there's not really very many sort of still moments in the film, and so that energy was a big part of it.
Definitely.
And it's all naturalistic, but it's energized naturalism in some way.
Amazing. And Aaron?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just going back to like that kind of like shooting the rehearsal thing. I mean, that's the beauty of what David allows us to do is like, you know, it keeps it spontaneous and fresh, and you have a discovery. We all have a discovery. I mean, the thing is, sometimes you get a big bulky scene where you kind of go, how are you gonna block this? I feel very comfortable when it comes to like physicality, choreography, things like that, and when it comes to like having action and things to do, then it kind of, you build into that. It's kind of interesting if you're,
because it gives you a sort of purpose in the scene, doesn't it?
well, also like the other actors, like David cast real guys from the military. So the moment I turned up for the first few days, I didn't even know who I was, but like I was already in uniform and I had different accent and everything. And they saw the different marks on the lapel and things like that. And they knew instantly the moment I started telling them things that I had authority, and they just listened to me and did what I did and said that, yes, sir, and all that sort of stuff. Right. And it's great because I, with the EOD specialist about the blocking, about how and what I needed to do. And the moment this thing didn't work, then I needed to get this certain, equipment out, and asked who to get it for, and I go, well, I do this, what do I say here and there? And I go and tell them, like, and I knew, I know all their names, and we just used all their sort of last names, or their like
nicknames,
or their nicknames, or whatever they did. And so, and it allowed me to just go in there and have take charge of this sort of this feeling, this scene, right? I mean, you discover a lot in what you want to rehearse. Some people, I think some directors are like, okay, well, I sort of see like you should maybe you want to come over here, and then at some point we've got to get you over to the door again. And how are we going to do that? And you just go, I don't know. Well, just let me. I don't know.
So I
know I've got to get to the door eventually, and I'm going to pick up my jacket on the way out, and I might tell them to get this. You don't know what's going to happen, and then I think David, there's a lot of trust there to be like, I feel like and some actors who don't know that process because they're not used to a director who gives them that freedom. So like, where's there a mark?
Where's the boundary?
Where's my mark, and am I allowed to do this and that?
Well, we also, I mean, like we completely. I'm not the only director, but I've completely abandoned continuity in my films. So because I don't really want the same thing twice. So it's a very different process where often in films you're laying down something, and then you're having to kind of fit those grooves that you've already laid down. And for us, it's the opposite. So if you're okay, we've done that one, we've done that version of it. Let's try a different version of it.
Absolutely.
And using the time you have, because in the schedule of a movie, like sometimes you've got only half an hour to make a scene. Sometimes you've got it's a big scene, you've got 3 hours. But just like milking or squeezing the lemon, and squeezing the juice out of the scene from many different angles as possible in different ways, and looking for the magic, looking for the moments which are
and
where sometimes you've embraced a scene, but there's a new freshness to it.
I sometimes get asked, advice, like what's your advice for like young actors starting out and things like that, and it genuinely is that. It's like you don't have to go learn your lines in one way, right? It's like you got to leave freedom for spontaneity to happen and be adaptable, and that's what it is. So you kind of get a sense of who your character is, but then like be open to like playing around with other actors and the director and what they want. So you got to be adaptable.
Amazing. I think we've got I think we've got to wrap up. Yeah, it's been such a pleasure chatting to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the amazing nuggets, and best of luck on all your movies. Yeah, keep making great anti-hero thrillers. And, everything in between.
Do you cut this up, or is it just...
Yeah, we can. Yeah,
he's like, I will absolutely cut this up.